Welcome to Bookends of Recovery. All right, we are going to cover two topics today. We are going to talk about three circles, which can be beneficial to both addicts and the loved ones of addicts. And then we're also going to talk about meet it, greet it, transform it with a little firewall exercise that you can do, which can also be beneficial to both sides. So, I hope you'll join me. Oh, and I'm life coach Laura. Okay, so let's go ahead and just dive in. So, one of the most frequent questions I'm asked is what's considered a relapse in recovery. So to me, it's a personal choice. I believe that each person's recovery is their own to define. So what may be a bottom line to me may not be a bottom line to someone else. As you guys know, I quit my DOC, which was cocaine, cold turkey over 30 years ago, and then I white knuckled my sobriety for years until my disclosure day of my husband's addiction. And then that gave me an opportunity to do a deep dive on my recovery and really just start healing from the trauma and move me away from what my foo had taught me. And so, if you're not familiar with foo, I did a podcast on that a few weeks ago. But anyway, this is when I learned about the three circles and began learning to accept the gray area in life. Gray. Because before that, I really needed everything to be like black and white and in its place, no exceptions. And I think that's why I just loved jobs that I had in the past. Like I was a property manager, there was rules and regs, now I'm in bookkeeping, like everything is just, taxes, like everything is just, you know, neat and columns and all that stuff. So, but yeah, so anyway, the three circles originally were started in 12 steps in SAA. If you're not familiar with that, that's Sex Addicts Anonymous. Can't believe I almost forgot that. Which is where we had heard about them. And now it's used by a lot of people in recovery. So I will read to you the original definition, and that is the person in recovery draws three concentric, I said it right, yes, concentric circles consisting of an inner, middle, and outer circle. With the help of their sponsor or others in recovery, they write down various behaviors in each of the three circles. Sounds so easy, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and break down what each circle means. And again, each person's circle is going to look different, depending on their struggle, what they consider their bottom line, and where they are in their recovery. And the circles are going to be fluid and they may evolve and change over time, like mine did, my husband's did, people I've worked with have changed. So, most likely, when you write yours down, they will change over time. It will take a few years, but they will most likely change. I will probably give you examples both from mine and maybe my husband's if it pops into my head, but bear with me if I do. Uh, and the reason I say why partners can use this is because if you are in any kind of healing and you're trying to stay away from your behaviors, but you'll see that at the end. I'll explain that better to kind of click it into place. Um, okay, so let's dive in, shall we? The inner circle is where we put behaviors. Now, I want you to kind of picture the circles like you would the rings on a dartboard. All right, so those three circles. Um, and I also have an example on my blog, and then I also have a free worksheet on my website, so you can download that. Okay, but the inner circle is where we put the behaviors we want to abstain from. Those are the ones that we would consider a loss in our sobriety. So if we did it, that means we would have to say, "Oh, I had a setback." And these are our personal bottom line behaviors that we identify as addictive or harmful or unacceptable. And, it's like, all right, gotta mark that as a setback or a slip or a relapse. The middle circle is where we put boundary behaviors that could lead to a setback. Those are the things that we aren't quite sure about yet. They're a little risky, right? So these behaviors can move to the inner circle when necessary. Then we have the outer circle. In the outer circle, we put healthy behaviors. These are the things that enhance our life and our recovery and healing. Okay, so let's do some examples. All right, so typically the inner circle and the outer circle are easier to define than the middle, right? Because that's that gray area. So someone like me, in my inner circle, I would have things like cocaine, obviously, meth, stimulants, even like including prescription stimulants, mushroom, acid, anything that's like mind altering, people I used with, places where I used, just not going to go hang out there. And then examples of outer circle, these are the healthy behaviors. I would add attending group or meetings, writing, hobbies, like my plants and fish and birds. Oh my. But anything like that, right here, what I'm doing now, podcasting, anything, like meditating, prayer, volunteering, those are all the healthy things that I like to do. Dancing around my kitchen, dancing in my family room, playing the Oculus. These are all the healthy outlets that I have. The middle circle, aka the gray, this is where gray thinking comes in. I know, gasp. For example, I had drinking in my inner circle, and then I moved alcohol into my middle circle because sometimes I'll have a drink or two drinks on Christmas or New Year's Eve, like if we have like the kids in town or something like that. I might have like a glass of wine with dinner or something like that. But then when I was doing my trauma work with my counselor, I moved it back into my inner circle until I was finished because, I maintained an awareness that even with all these years of being clean and not having issues with alcohol in the past and limiting my intake on, those days, I'm still susceptible to triggers, especially when I'm going through something so emotionally intense. Now, am I advocating for people who struggle with addiction to quote unquote experiment with different drugs or alcohol to see if they can handle them? Absolutely not. I think we need to have an honest understanding of ourselves. We need to be transparent with others if we move something from one circle to another. That means that if you're in a relationship with somebody, like my husband, obviously he knows. Um, my kids knew. My kids know my history, and so uh, the saying is, those who have nothing to hide hide nothing. So I just feel like there has to be a deeper understanding, you know. And it's important to maintain an awareness of what behaviors or environments can lead us toward a potential setback. Uh, so, someone like me, it would be like visiting certain family can be stressful, so I have to be mindful about that. Talking about certain topics um, still can be triggering for me. Obviously, my abuse. Certain social media, same thing. Lack of sleep. Migraines, because while they're out of my control, I need to make sure that I stay in an optimistic frame of mind versus a victim mentality. Like, I just came out of a 2 week stretch, which is so unusual, but I had to make sure that I wasn't, uh, yeah, I'm in pain, but it could be so much worse. You know what I mean? Like, I had to had to find that silver lining. Um, and so, like I said, there's an example of what the three circles diagram looks like on my website, and then that blank downloadable one that you can fill in under the worksheets tab. Uh, and the three circles for the partners or the loved ones, or even for you, can be adapted to help you do a deeper dive on things like um, your recovery, your healing. What are you doing to keep your recovery active and not becoming stagnant? Uh, for those in healing, what about boundaries? Who are you surrounding yourself with? Is it a healthy support system? Uh, what are your healthy outlets? Are you doing self care? What about your communication style? Those kinds of things. Stress management, healing tools, recovery tools, hobbies, uh, sleeping, eating, exercise, hydration. These are tangible tools that we can have in our recovery and healing toolkit. And then I'm just going to add one more tool in there with you, um, because, you know, raise your hand if you've ever struggled with like negative thoughts and emotions, right? Like, I'm raising my hand. You can't see me, but don't worry, you're not alone. We all do it from time to time, especially if we're in recovery and healing. Those negative thoughts and emotions can be pretty persistent. Any Larry David fans out there? Pretty persistent. Um, and when I was doing my certification for life coaching, I was like, why do we lean towards negative thinking so easily? And it turns out people way smarter than me, neuroscientists, call it negative bias. And we would be on alert for predators, which was great back then, but not so great now. Cool thing now is our brains are malleable, and we can rewire them toward positive thinking, emotions, and behaviors. And the more we push our brains in that direction, the more they will go down that healthy pathway. And so I like to use a technique called meet it, greet it, transform it. And so, first, we meet it by acknowledging the thought or the emotion's presence. And of course, like everything else, it takes awareness. So, if any of you are like I was, this is going to take some effort. You know, I was the queen of shoving my emotions down and pretending they weren't there, which is why I ended up collapsed on the kitchen floor. That's a whole podcast for another day. Maybe, maybe not. Who knows? But after you've acknowledged that the thought is there, you're going to greet it. You know, give it a name. Is it fear, insecurity, rejection, loneliness, jealousy? Maybe it's a trigger, like a place or a person. But you acknowledge it and then you greet it. Then allow yourself to move through the thought or the emotion and process it. Remember, it's okay to feel uncomfortable. I know we don't like to sit in uncomfortableness, um, but that is part of the process. You know, a lot of us have spent a lot of time and probably money avoiding uncomfortable feelings. You know, it's okay to be angry or sad. That's normal. Um, Many of us have been hurt. Some of us have been traumatized by what we've been through in our lives, you know, me included. And that's why it's important for us to have these tools in our toolkit, you know, one I'm going to share with you in a minute. Um, so so we can have ways to ground ourselves and manage our anxiety. And then finally, you're going to transform it. And you'll do this by changing your mind over to something that you're grateful for. Because having that attitude of gratitude creates new positive pathways for your brain to follow, right? Because we're trying to always move your brain in that new positive direction. And so we can change from saying, you know, we're happy the glass is half full to being grateful for the cup. We can shift our thinking from saying, what good is it, to, yep, what is the good? That's right. So when we do this, after a negative thought or emotion, it becomes easier to not only keep them from spiraling, but also prevent them from popping up so often. And so there's this great exercise, right, besides the meet it, greet it, and transform it, that can help you sort through them. All right, so I'm going to go over the meet it and greet it real quick, and then I'll share the next one. So we are going to meet it, greet it, transform it. Ready? I'll go one more time. Okay, so we meet it by acknowledging it. All right, so we're going to have an awareness. Meet it by acknowledging it. After you've acknowledged it, you greet it and give it a name. After you've named it, you're going to transform it by changing it over to something you're grateful for. So you're just shifting your mindset. All right, so the next thing I'm going to teach you is the thought firewall exercise. I know I'm throwing a lot at you in this one podcast. Okay, so the thought firewall is a 2-week challenge And this, I have this worksheet on my website. Again, free downloadable worksheet. But it's just going to be something that you write. It can be done in 3 columns if you want. But these are going to be done in 3 sections: thoughts that are allowed to enter, thoughts that you don't want to allow to enter, and then thoughts that maybe are allowed. And let me give you some examples. So, the ones that are allowed are gratitude, happiness, goals, goal progress, and affirmations. The ones that are not allowed are negative self talk, anxious thoughts, negative criticism, and the addict voice. And I would add on to that, I would say that negative self talk or that addict voice, pay attention to whose voice it is. Is it yours? Is it someone from your foo? Um, we've talked about foo before. I've done a podcast on it. But see, pay attention to where that voice is coming from. And then maybe allowed to enter, that would be like ideas offered by other people, positive feedback, and constructive criticism. Because how many times have we received criticism from somebody and then just taken it so personally that we're not open to it, and then maybe a few days later we're like, oh, you know what? Maybe that wasn't so bad. So we need to be open to criticism because sometimes it can be helpful. Um, so I hope that these things that I just threw at you real fast, I hope that you can find them helpful. Again, no matter where you are in your recovery and your healing, whether this is your first day, your 100th day, your 100th first day, I'm in your corner. If you have any questions, please let me know. I am happy to help. This is not a hook to get you to schedule an appointment with me. I will answer your email. Just go to my website, lifecoachlaura.org. You can download those free worksheets I told you about. And I'm really grateful that you're here. And I'm wishing you a beautiful day because you 100% deserve it. Thank you again. Have a great one.